Welcome back to Turing Complete. We are right at the end here. We only have 3 more assembly challenges left. So let's get started with planet names. We had the intern type out planet names in human script. Unfortunately, he forgot to capitalize each name. The inputs in this level represent the characters in a list of planet names encoded in ASCII. Each name is separated by a space, which has the numeric value 32. Replace the first letter in each word with its uppercase counterpart. So we really just need to do some string parsing. So if we see the value 32, that means the next character has to be capitalized. So if we look at this ASCII chart, A is 97 and capital A is 65, which means we should just be able to subtract 32 from that letter to get the capitalized version of it. So pretty simple. We're just taking the input, subtracting it by 32, and then putting it in the output, and this lowercase v turns into an uppercase V. So we should be able to always do that with the first letter, I think. Otherwise, we will check to see if there's a space for the rest of them. Okay, so let's see if this works. We're starting out just capitalizing the first letter, and then we're going into this scan loop where we're putting the letter into register 0. Then we're seeing if register 0 is equal to 32, which means it's a space. If it is, then we jump to capitalize letter, and then we capitalize the next letter, and then jump back into the scan loop. If it's not, then we just output the letter and then jump back into the scan loop. So let's go ahead and see if this works. Oh, I see. I have to output the space still. Okay. I just forgot to output the space in between the words. So I just had to add this one instruction to output a space when it hits space. All right, let's try it again. Okay, it seems to be working. Maybe we should speed it up. All right, not too bad. We managed to complete this one with a pretty simple program. Okay, the penultimate challenge, Tower of Alloy. We need you to help clean up the basement. Specifically, we want you to move piles of radioactive disks from an old reactor. Just be sure not to put a bigger disk on top of a smaller disk, or the whole ship will blow up. The first 4 inputs will give you the following in order: disk, NR, the highest disk number on the pile, source, which location number to move from, destination where to move the pile to, and spare the third spot that is neither the source nor the destination. Control the crane with the following outputs: 0 to spot 0, 1 to spot 1, 2 to spot 2, and 5 to turn the magnet on or off. Play with the magnet manually by using the arrow keys. Okay. Tower of Hanoi algorithm. Implement the following algorithm. Okay, so I think I get how this works. And it really tells us what algorithm to use, essentially, to make this work. And this is a recursive function, so they want us to use the stack to complete this. But we'll see. Let's just get to work. Okay, so we have a couple problems related to how we've implemented the stack. The first problem is that I don't really have the stack set up in a way that makes conditionally pushing things to the stack easy. That's probably something I should fix, and there probably is a workaround for it anyway, but it's just not something that's easily done. Second, the way it's set up, I'm really just pushing values, like the instruction number values, the stack, and then pushing that directly to the program counter when I'm returning. So I can't really push specific values to the stack. So I'm going to have to figure out a completely different way of implementing this. I think I'm just going to do it using our memory block here and implement it in a similar way to how a stack works, but it's going to work a little bit different. So it doesn't really look like it, but I'm actually pretty far on this algorithm. I've got this first line implemented, and then I've got the first two parts of this else implemented. So that on the first pickup, we're moving 0 to 1, and then we're moving 1 to 2. Now I need to implement this final bit and then loop back to basically close everything. So let's see how that goes. Oh my god, is it finally working? It feels so nice to see this working properly. It's actually like, even though I didn't like implement it in stack, I actually really like that it's in RAM, and you can see exactly what's happening essentially in the stack. And it's actually like a really good visualization of what like a Stack Overflow would look like. What I mean is you can see there's a limited number of memory spaces. So if our recursion went too deep, we'd run out of RAM and overflow. Oh man, I'm so glad this worked. Oh, this was such a pain. It's funny because if you had a like Python or something, this would be such an easy algorithm to implement. Any higher level language, even like C, it would be much easier to implement this. But man, doing it in this like crummy assembly that I put together was just so difficult. But wow, it felt really good when I finally saw this working. Man. So what I have here is really just an implementation of this algorithm. We're initializing the pointer, and then we're putting the inputs into registers. This args to mem label is essentially our stack addition. It's adding things to the stack. And then the pop is this essentially decrement args section where we're just kind of going backwards and looking at the previous arguments from on the stack. But otherwise, all we're doing is we're immediately jumping into our move label and checking to see if diskNR is equal to 0. If it is, then we terminate move, where we move the disk from the source to destination, just as it tells us to do here. And that's the only time we ever go into this terminate move label. Otherwise, if you look at this else statement, this first part of move is just implementing that. And we have move 2, which implements the second part of the else statement, and then move 3, which implements the third part of the else statement. I had a lot of bugs, which is the reason why it took so long to actually write this script. But otherwise, yeah, I'm really proud of it. I'm really happy I got this done. It was a good challenge. It was a tough challenge, but a good challenge. Okay, on to our last challenge.
And the last one is Waterworld. Good news, we want to turn Earth into an exotic water park. We need you to help us find a good location for the Pirates Plunge water slide. Specifically, we are looking for an area that can hold a high volume of water. The landscape is 16 columns wide. Read the inputs 16 times to get the height of the landscape at each column from the left to the right. Then output the total volume that the landscape can carry as the answer. Total volume of water, I'm guessing that means. Okay. Alright, so this is the landscape, 16 columns wide, and I guess each input will give us the height. Hit enter. Okay. I see. So we're going to be looking at the inputs one at a time to see the height, and we just need to see how much water can fill up. But we need to know what's to the right and left of each column before we can actually tell if there's water that's going to be in there. Okay, so there can't be any water at either edge because there's no barrier at either edge. So the interesting thing about this is that we're getting the inputs for each vertical section one at a time, but what we kind of want to do is see horizontal slices like this in order to determine what's being filled, right? At least that's how I would determine it in my head, right? I'd see there's land here and there's land here, and so there's space here, and so water could fit there. So I wonder if we turn that into like horizontal arrays, it would be a much easier problem to solve. So I guess what I'm thinking is kind of like creating a bitmap in RAM. I think I should have enough room to do that. Okay, maybe I'll just do that and it should be easier to explain what I mean. So you can see what's happening here, if I've programmed everything correctly, is I'm making a bitmap of this window here. So where there is land, like a solid spot, you have a 1, and then air is 0. So like I said, this long code here is just making this bitmap. Now I think what I can do is I can look at each horizontal row of RAM, and any 0 that's in between two 1s is going to count as water. So any row with all 0s, right? There's no 1s. That can't contain any water. Any row where there's just a single 1, which we don't have any examples of here, that can't contain water either. Water can only exist between the 1s. So then all I have to do is create a little algorithm that goes through this one by one and counts how many 0s are between each 1. So for this first row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then all I've got to do is just accumulate the count, add all those counts up for each row, output that, and that should be the answer. Okay, so you can see what I've done here is I've got the memory location in register 2, 81, and I've got the memory location in register 3 of 92. That's the one over here, and then the one all the way at the end over here. So then all I have to do is subtract register 2 from register 3, and I get the number of 0s between these two 1s. But then I also have to subtract out these 1s, because these 1s are where these pieces of land are, and obviously there can't be water where those pieces of land are. So that'll be effectively then counting just the 0s between the 1s. And then again, I just keep a tally, keep a sum from each row, and then once I go through all these rows, I can just output the sum, and that should be the answer. Although I am realizing the only issue is if there's ever like dead space, right? If there's ever like land above like a bridge and then below it there's no water, that might cause an issue. But I'm not sure if that is ever going to come up in this scenario. So we're just going to keep plodding along, and if that's a problem, we'll fix it later. Okay, so I'm just subtracting the first one from the second one register values, and then I'm subtracting the number of 1s that I've had, and then I'm adding that number to the accumulator in register 1, and then repeating that for each row. Now I've done that for the first screen, and you can see in register 1 the value is 28, and that's what I should get if I hit enter here. Let's see. 28. There we go. So now I just got to output that number, and then I'm done. Okay, let's see if this works. We're gonna run fast. Okay, well the first couple seem to work, but this one is broken. Why? I see. It's not. Okay, so I see the problem when there's a 1 at the edge here. When it's the second 1, it's not counting that. Okay, there we go. That little check seemed to work. Okay, I think we're going to do it. That's it. We won. All right, that was a really good challenge. I actually thought Tower of Alloy was probably a little bit harder just because I didn't really have my stack set up for it. But like this was a really good challenge. Really interesting test. I'm glad it didn't have any like dead zones where like bridges were on top or anything like that. That would have screwed me up. But yeah, this was a fun one and a fun game. And I guess that's it. So we've come a really, really long way. Of course, this is the beta version of this game. You can see 0.1059 beta. So at some point, the full version is going to come out, and I suppose there's going to be different challenges or more challenges. And maybe at that point, I'll add more to this video series. But now we're done. There's really not a whole lot left to do. So just going to leave it there for now. Thank you so much if you've watched all the way through. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely had fun playing this game and highly recommend it. But with that, there's really not much left to say. Hopefully I'll see you guys again soon. Thanks. Bye.